Right, so hope you can all see my screen. Um, if you can, please raise your hands or somebody say yes.
Yes.
Amazing, thank you. Right. So, NHS interview, the devil in a sheep's clothing. You wouldn't know unless you have sat one. You wouldn't expect what things are asked there. You would not be able to tell if you haven't sat for these interviews multiple times, like I have. So my name is Lubaina. I'm an ICU consultant in Birmingham, soon to move to London. I belong to London though. I've sat multiple interviews for the NHS at a junior doctor position as a registrar in intensive care for the past 7 or 8 years. And by multiple interviews, it means I've sat almost one interview every year because I've been doing my Caesar rotations and I've been doing that on my own, finding out places that would give me the rotations and then sitting for their interviews. So I've had no formal training in sitting for these interviews. I've not done any courses. This is just pure experience of how I have fared in these interviews. And to be honest, I've never failed an interview, which might not be possible for everybody because some of you might be very, very junior. I come with a lot of background experience, and sometimes I've even been exploited for that because I potentially was overqualified for the job, but I had to take it because there was no other option. However, I will break it down to you and make it as simple as possible to know what we as a lead panelist for a junior doctor interview, which now I am, look for in an interview, in an interviewee. And what are the things that you should absolutely do and absolutely avoid in the process. On a personal note, I do not think it's very difficult. I think being honest, being really authentic with what you're saying makes all the difference. It's not about language. You can be from any part of the world. You can still sit for the interview and you can crack it. You don't have to have a British English vocabulary for the same. You don't have to know all your medical jargon for it. But you should be able to tell a story. You should be able to make up a story. Sometimes you should be able to just be yourself and say, well, I've not done this. So let's crack on. My first and foremost advice for anybody is have a strategy. So everybody who is a doctor, who is in the medical field, is super, super intelligent, and there is just no doubt about that. You've done your MBBS, which is probably the toughest exams to crack, the toughest curriculum to go through. You've done your masters in other things. You've done your research bits. You've done publications. So obviously, you've all got the brains. But let's be honest. Despite having the brain, many of us are still finding it really difficult to crack interviews. And why is that? Because we go there without a strategy. And you need a strategy when it comes to doing interviews, especially in the NHS, because it comes with a certain structure. NHS itself is quite complicated, and the way they conduct their junior doctor interviews is also very complicated. And behind the scene, there is a lot of things happening which you do not know as an interviewee. You would start with finding the place where you want to apply. You would start with filling in the application, and then you would wait for an interview call. But in between the three things, there is a lot happening in the background. For example, we as the interview shortlisters receive multiple applications for a single job. Yes, the job market is very, very difficult in the NHS in the UK, to be honest. For junior doctors, yes, it's becoming even more and more difficult by the passing day. But when it comes to us shortlisting people, there are certain things that are an absolute must. Your application is basically you on a paper. So I would want you to be as honest as possible, as simple as possible, and put yourself in our shoes. And, if you can't go through that whole application without sighing 50,000 times in between, then believe us, we would not want to do that either, because, of course, we are humans as well. So, how to get your applications right? And I understand this is on NHS Interview, the whole talk, but I would want you to start with your applications first. What is basically important is how to get everything that you want to tell the interviewer, but to present it in a way that they do not get bored. Yes. It might sound unfair, it might sound really unprofessional, but we as humans, we as doctors who are working a lot in the background and who are also doing our clinical bits, if we are asked to shortlist 50 applications, we do not have the strength, nor the brains, nor the patience to go along and read through all the 50 applications verbatim. No, we cannot. The time doesn't allow. We are given a deadline to go through all those applications and shortlist a few people who will then be asked to come for the interview. So, how can you make your application stand out? One, you do it in bullet points. Sorry, can you put your mics off, please, while I'm talking? Thank you. So, if you're going to put an application in big paragraphs, write a big essays on every question, then obviously those are not going to be read. And this is coming from me, who has done the process, who has gone through it multiple times. So make it stand out by making it really concise, very to the point. Precise and concise are the two words that you would want to stick by, both during your application process and also during your interview process. So put it down in small points, be very precise, do not bluff. So I've seen a lot of applications. Just recently, I was an interviewer for a junior doctor position in intensive care. And I've seen a lot of applications that all look the same. The material, the language, everything just looks absolutely the same. But no two humans can be the same. If you have put in the effort, it shows on your application. If you have done your copy pasting, it shows on your application. So try and avoid that. Get the most out of the short attention span. For a particular application, the majority that we can give is maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes at the most. We do not have that kind of time where we are asked to shortlist 50 applications in a span of 5 days. And expectation is we read through the whole of it. It is a very long 30-page application that we need to read through. So make it easy for us. Make it stand out for us, and you will get the chance. The other things that are important in the applications process is do your homework. So don't just answer the questions because you need to answer them, but also have proper stories, have a backup, have evidence for everything prepared in a portfolio, which if asked to show during your interview, you have something to fall back upon. And we would then know that you were not bluffing on the application. So do not bluff is my golden takeaway from this particular slide. So the recent interview that I took, it was very easy for us to realize that not many doctors who applied for the interview had actually read the job description. Yes, JD means job description. So not reading the job description doesn't really help, because then you wouldn't know what your employer is actually looking for. It might seem very boring, and it's a very lengthy document at times, but it has the essential and desirable criteria written up on the job description, on the person specification. These are two different documents. You will get the crux of the job, what our requirements are, and where you fit in just by reading through the job description. So have a read. If you don't read the job description, you wouldn't really understand what kind of job it is. It's not just about being a doctor, going there, doing clinical stuff. It comes with many other responsibilities. And this is all explained in the job description. It also gives you an overall view of how this particular trust or the hospital or the unit or the department that you're going to go and work for operates in general. What is the makeup of their staff? Where do you fit in the whole hierarchy of seniority and juniority? It also tells you what your job is all about. Are you going to just be clinical help, or are you also going to get more opportunities for, say, teaching, research? There are units which will be more interested in people who've got a research background. So you can show up, you can show off your research capabilities if you've done something, and you can give more stress on that in your application as well as during your interview. It will give you an edge over others who are maybe not engaged in research. So pick up those points, pick up those strong points from the job description and the person's specification before you tailor it to your application. Again, there has been a trend recently where people I've been checking my LinkedIn posts quite frequently, and there are a lot of IMGs who've been ranting about, well, I've applied for 300 plus jobs but haven't got an interview call yet. So why apply? Do not apply for all these jobs. Just because you've got a job posted on a job website doesn't mean you are obliged or you have to apply for it. No, read the job description, see if it fits you, see if it fits your background, see if you fit into the job description and the person's specification. And only then you put in that effort to write that whole bloody application. It's very long, it's very time consuming. At the end of it, many of us just get headaches. So there is a lot of thought process involved. There is a lot of background knowledge involved. You're typing, even if you're copy pasting from, say, a pre-written application, it's time consuming. Not only that, I mean, if you're writing up all those applications, you're sending all those applications, and then you wonder why you are not getting an interview call. So there are two reasons for that. Yes, maybe the number of jobs are less. Yes, that is one of the main reasons. The market is very clogged, I would say, especially when it comes to junior doctors. But then also, you probably did not fit the job description. You probably did not fit the person's specification. That's why you didn't even make to the shortlisting. So there are three areas where interviewees get taken out of the job hunt. So one is when your application goes through the HR initially, and they segregate people into whether they could be for the job or whether they would not be for the job. The second hurdle would be the interviewers who are shortlisting. So we will shortlist based on some criteria that are being given to us. So if you don't fit into the essential criteria, you do not get shortlisted, as simple as that. So if you are, say, if you've got a medical background and you're applying for a surgical job, and one of the essential criteria for a junior clinical post is maybe some kind of qualification in surgical branch, or maybe a little bit of an experience in a surgical branch, then you do not get shortlisted. Your application gets cut off at that second hurdle point. And then the third hurdle is when you are asked to come for the interview, and post-interview, when we reassess your entire performance of the interview, we mark it, we also then assess it against your initial application, and then we choose who the best fit is. So that's the third hurdle. Not many would reach the third hurdle, unfortunately, and many of you would usually get cut down at the shortlisting stage. So do not put yourself in that stressful situation where you've put in 300 applications but haven't received any job offers or any interview calls. Stop doing this to yourselves. Stop getting through the stress of facing rejections. It's not nice. It's not kind to yourselves. Again, there has been a lot of shouting about why people who do not get shortlisted or people who are not asked for the interview are not given feedback. Imagine giving feedback, individual feedback, to 50 plus candidates for a single job as a full-time clinician. It's not in our forte. So the feedback comes from HR, and mostly the HR is nowadays AI. If not AI, it's automated in one form or the other. They will cut it short and not give you a very detailed feedback. But of course, if you are interested in knowing why you made it to the interview stage but did not make it to the job offer, of course, you can email back your interviewers or the panelists and ask them for a formal feedback. And we would happily do that for you, because that would be just 5 or 6 feedbacks that we would need to give. But for everybody else who does not even make it to the interview stage, it's impossible for us to give you a feedback because it's not in our hands. Again, the takeaway from this slide is do not apply unnecessarily to jobs where you do not meet the essential criteria. If they are asking for a specialty level 1, 2, and ST level 3, 4, and if you have just passed your foundation year, or if you are at the level of a foundation training, do not apply for these interviews. You will face rejection and it will not be nice. So yeah, I think I've said enough about reading job description and person specifications. Now we will go to the more human and AI things. The copy-paste trap. I call it a trap because it's essentially what many of us fall into. And this is how people end up filling up those 300 generic applications. Do not do that. Do not waste your time. Do not waste your energy. Use that time to upskill yourself. Use that time to do a course that will benefit you in the future. Use that time to network with people. Use it fairly. Do not just waste it. It's precious time. You don't want to just give that away. So each application has got some differences in the job description and person specification. If you haven't gone through that, the chances are you are copy pasting generic information. Sorry, can you just put your mic off, please? So if you are just generically copying and pasting, your application will not stand out. As I said, from amongst a bundle of 50 applications, unless there is something that you have done personally, tailored that application, made it stand out, chances are it will not even make it to the shortlist. So tailor each application. Generic applications are literally invisible to the shortlisters. So make them stand out, make them less messy. If an application in front of you and you are not able to go through the whole application without feeling bored, amazing. The same happens to us as well. So cut us some slack. Give us something that will attract us more. Give us something that will be easy to read, easy to digest, and something that will tell us immediately that you fit in the job. So these are the things that I came up with in my last shortlisting process. Again, long AI-flavored buzzword-filled text blobs, please avoid them. They are very generic. There is nothing personal about them. They don't tell us anything about you. Be very concise, use bullet points, keep them tight, and avoid cognitive overload. Now, essential versus desirable criteria. And these are essentially the things that we mark you on when we are shortlisting your applications, okay? So unless you meet all the essential criteria, avoid applying to such jobs. Even if you apply, the chances are you may not make it to the shortlisting, okay? If by luck you make it to the shortlisting, then you will be cut off in the interview stage because there will be questions around all the essential criteria during the interview as well. It is nice to meet a few desirable criteria. And I will tell you one thing, meeting desirable criteria is potentially one of the most important things that you can do to stand out. So these desirable criteria, like doing your life support exams, the trainings like ALS, ATLS, EPALS, etc., or holding an additional qualification like MRCP, MRCS, these definitely carry weight. They definitely give you an edge over people who haven't done these things or who are in the process of doing them. And then other desirable criteria, and this is I'm not sure if it's just the NHS, but these desirable criteria will give you an edge over others when it comes to getting shortlisted for an interview. So things like audits. If you've not conducted an audit, just knowing the process or having done a CPD that tells you the process of audit also holds marks. It also goes in the assessment. A QIP, a quality improvement project. Tell us what you did in one line. Tell us how that changed the clinical environment that you're working in. Tell us how it made a change in the healthcare infrastructure. Tell us how it made a difference, how it improves the quality of care that you're giving to your patients. So make it really short, 2-3 lines, but make it stand out. Research experience, publications, anything that you've done in terms of maybe a letter to the editor, something that got published in a journal, an abstract, or say a poster that you presented in any of the conferences and on a regional or a national, international. All of those things count.
I don't even know what this is going to be.
Sorry, could you please switch off your mics? Thank you. So the desirable criteria, well, it's not very nice losing my flow. Anyway, so let's go forward, and these are some of the things that you would want. Again, another thing that I've noticed in the research process was that nobody talks about working with multidisciplinary team. It's all AI. Right. If you have worked in a multidisciplinary team, give us examples. And examples mean, have you been managing a rota? Have you had, say, a multidisciplinary meeting where a case was discussed? Or have you had the chance to chair a meeting on a regional level? Something like that. Something that is an exemplary, as opposed to just generic sentences like, well, we work well with the nurses. Of course, everybody works well with the nurses, but that doesn't come under experience working with MDT. You need to show us how you have worked with them. You need to give us an example, and that holds more impetus than anything else. Okay, don't fake it, own it. There will never be a perfect application. No application is ever perfect, okay? And I want you to say that to yourself, because if we ever find a perfect application, we know that it's usually fake. And this is reality. This is not a made-up thing, and we've gone through this. If you've not done something, just say so in the application. There are lots of questions where you would think the answer is no, but then your mind will play games with you, and you would make up a story just to make it look like you've done something. But you don't need to. If it's not important, if it's just a bluff, just try to avoid it. Just say, no, I haven't done it. But if I get an opportunity, I would like to do this. Okay. So for example, if you haven't really been into research, or you haven't published anything, or you haven't had any, say, poster presentations or anything else to prove that you are interested in research, just don't write anything about it. Just say, well, if given the opportunity, I would like to learn about it, or I would like to grow into the field, or it is an interest that I would want to pursue. Just plain simple words. Again, in applications, it's okay to say negative words like I've not done it. But when it comes to the interview stage, you have to be a little bit more manipulative with your words. So never use negative words like I've not done this, no, I've never had this experience before, or if somebody asks you an ethical question, I don't know anything about this. No. Well, this is very interesting. I would really want to go back and read about it. Or I would like to learn more about this if I get offered the job. Something that seems more positive, that seems like you're showing learning potential, that seems like you're showing interest, comes a long way in making the whole scenario pretty positive, even if you have absolutely not done anything about it. So avoid using negative words, okay? Again, I very much like candidates who speak like they are doing things, who speak in first person. Do not say, well, this can be done like that, or we would do it like this. No, it's your interview. It's your application. Write it in first person. Tell us what you have done or what you would do in a certain situation, okay? It is all right if your application is not perfect. It is okay if there are certain things that you haven't done, but the things that you have done, explain them in first person. Tell us what you have done to make it happen. Tell us what you have learned from it, or tell us how that has made a difference. So that is what is making the application and your interview stand out. Okay. Yes, now this is something that not many of us are very good at doing. And some of us who are coming from other countries to work in the UK, I would want you to remember this always. Take credit for your work, okay? You have done a lot coming this far. So take credit for your work. Know what you can offer. Your employer is looking for something that will help them improve the whole practice, that will help them improve patient care. Even if you are a junior doctor, you have a lot of power. You can change a lot of things. You can bring with you a lot of fresh perspective. So do not underestimate yourself. I understand many of us don't like boasting about ourselves. Many of us like to stay humble. Many of us have the thought process where let my work speak for itself. But no, it is a very different world in the NHS. Your work will not speak for itself unless you speak for yourself. So you have to tell everybody what you have done after you have done it. And I realized this after a very long period of working very silently in the background, doing my job and thinking, well, why is nobody appreciating me, or why is everybody else taking credit for the work that I've done? So do not do that. If you have done something, own it. You have given in your best. You have helped a patient. You have saved a life. Yes, that's the power you hold. So why be afraid of taking the credit? Why be afraid of marketing yourself in something that you're good at doing? Do that. Even if you are coming for an interview and somebody asks you, well, why should we hire you? And it's a very common question. What are you bringing to the table? So don't just quote passion just because I like being a doctor. No, that's not an answer. We are not asking you to give us motivational speeches or quote Shakespeare or somebody else, but we do want your story. So we do want to know what you can offer at your level, which will help us improve as a service. For example, if you're coming from India, your superpower is speed and efficiency. And I know that because when we work in India as a junior doctor, if you are working as say, a casualty medical officer or somebody in a district hospital, I know how many patients you're seeing in a day, more than 50. So that's your superpower. You should be able to market that as your superpower, that you are efficient, you are a quick learner. Can you please stop your mic? That you're a quick learner, you are efficient, and you know time management. So can I please ask?
Oh, sorry.
Mute your mics, please. Thank you. Right. So, and when it comes to telling us your motivational story in the application, because you can I please ask you to mute your mics, everybody? Whoever is with the iPhone, please can you mute your mic? Right. So when we are going to ask you about, well, tell us how you are as a person or what's your superpower, you don't tell us things, but you also have to show us, and you can show that with examples. Again, when you're being asked a similar question in your application, there is nobody to see how you feel about describing yourself. So be very honest, but also market yourself the best way that you can. That's the only way we'll know what you've done and what you're capable of. So don't be shy. Then we come to upskilling, and I have spoken about this a little bit earlier as well. If you face rejection, do not worry. It's not the end of the world. There is a whole lot of time. There is a whole lot of opportunities that are waiting for you. So instead of just sulking over that rejection period, what you can do is you can strengthen your CV. You can gain skills, and they do not have to be expensive courses or expensive CPDs. No, you can just start building your CV with small e-learning platforms. You can start doing volunteer work. You can start visiting places. You can start networking with people. You can find more opportunities where you can grow. Maybe something outside of the clinical field. You can even go and do a course or help somebody set up another project which is non-clinical. And this can be shown in your managerial leadership skills. So why not use that period of which otherwise you would just keep sulking about and putting up, a really ranty posts on social media. I think you should use that rejection period to actually upskill yourself. And then you can also use that period to improve your communication skills. Communication skills is something that most of us doctors, most of us IMGs who when come to the UK struggle with. And I think that also eats away our confidence a little bit and also gives us a slightly lower self-esteem. It doesn't have to be that way. You can start communicating with like-minded people. You can start improving your vocabulary. You can start doing mirror interviews of yourself. And why not? It all improves your communication skills, and you will be in a much better place when you come to the next interview. So do not upspam, just upskill. Again, if I was given 30 generic applications and one strong application, the chances are I would consider the stronger application and not the 30 generic ones. And again, this is something that not many people know or give much importance to, but you should absolutely give. David, can I ask you to mute your mic, please? David, can I ask you to mute your mic?
This boy doesn't even know that it's on.
Can I ask everyone to mute their mics, please?
Person can't join me, can't on your microphone. I don't want to talk. Please mute your mic. And I just want to know with the drum board. No, I just joined one few.
Okay, so last time ask your advocate.
You see the top.
Right. So we come to knowing the place and its values. So this is something that not many people are aware about. When you are applying for a job interview in the NHS, because NHS is widely divided into a lot of different trusts, and each of the trusts will have its own values. These are the bold letters, the bold words that you see in the job description sometimes, and also in the job adverts at times. Read through them. Correlate your core values with these trust values. It tells the interviewer that you have actually made the effort to read about the trust as a whole. You know what they stand for, and you would want to be involved in that team to stand for those values. So please have a read through the job advert. Don't just steer through and apply or click on the apply button. That doesn't really help. Okay, you need to also tell us as the interviewee how you fit in our system, how you fit in our team. So for example, if I'm interviewing for a junior doctor in intensive care unit, then I need to know how you are capable of working in a very high stress environment. What are your aspirations? Are you somebody who's interested in working in a high adrenaline, high stress environment like ICU? Have you had a previous experience that made you realize that this was your calling, or that this was the best thing that you would want to do, or this is something that you aspire to become? Was there a role model in your previous job who kind of inspired you to take up this particular field of work? So tell us, give us the story that has led you to apply to this job. It's not always about, yes, it is about money, but it's not always about money or salary. We also need to know that you also are growing as a doctor, you are a good learner, you have aspirations that you're bringing with you, and thereby in our particular department or in our trust or in our hospital, you will come and fit in and try to fulfill and uphold those values and bring your values with you as well. So it's not always about technical questions. Interviewees who do well in interviews are also very good at answering the non-technical questions. And they don't have to be essays. They don't have to be very eloquent. It could be really simple, very plain words, even phrases, not even full sentences, but they come across as somebody who is really, really interested in bringing themselves as a doctor, fitting in your place of work. So do that, read through the advert, know the values of the place that you're going to go and work in, and then correlate those core values. Use those words, as you call the buzzwords, in the structured answers that you are giving during an interview. So if you use those words, that immediately strikes us to say that you've put in the effort to actually go through the advert. Again, this is one of the better advices that I have received from a lot of other people who have interviewed junior doctors. And this is something that also stands out quite a bit in the interviews that we conduct. When at the end of everything, you are asked by the interviewer, do you have any questions? Most of the junior doctors who are coming in from other countries to work for the first time in the NHS would just shrug off the question saying no. But you're not supposed to say no. Have a question. You would have questions later on. So why not ask those questions now? But again, the question cannot be about salary, because it's not the interviewers who decide your salary. Your salaries are decided by the HR, and it will all be communicated with you, and all the negotiations can happen with the HR. With the interviewers, what you can ask are things like, what kind of workplace is it? What kind of workplace culture do you have? Do your teams work really well together? What kind of team bonding do you have? What are the current projects that you're running in the unit? For example, are you all involved in research? Are there any recent clinical trials that the unit is involved in? What are the opportunities available for us as junior doctors to engage in education or, say, learning, or things like research, quality improvement projects? Where can I get more training? Would you be helping me with securing a training post later? If you are a more seniorish doctor, then you can ask them whether they support Caesar, whether they'd be able to help you collect all the evidence so you can then apply for a portfolio pathway. Things like that, things that will matter to you on a daily basis, things that will matter to you when you start working, things that you are not sure about. Ask those, place those questions strategically at the end of your interview. That shows that you have real interest, that you're really interested in this particular workplace, that you're really interested in the job. So these are the things that give you an edge. For me, if somebody is sitting in front of me, I ask them, well, do you have any questions for me? And they say no. It doesn't come across really well. As I said before, negative words don't come across well in an interview. So even if you don't have a question, you can just say things like, are there any opportunities that I should know before I join in? Is there anything you can cross questions? Why not? You can just put anything and everything that you have in your mind as a doubt in front of us. We're not going to eat you up. We're all adults, and this is a conversation. The more you keep an interview flowing like a conversation, the less you will feel scared, and it will ease your nerves a little bit. So all the interviews that I've given as a junior doctor so far, I think when I received the feedback later on about the interviews, it was not about my technical knowledge. It was not about my experience. It was not about my clinical acumen or anything of that sort. Everybody just said, well, we like the way you talk. We like how cool you were during the interview, or we like how unafraid you were during the interview. Don't we scare you? And I was like, no, why? You are adults, I'm an adult. We can just talk. And it's not a life and death thing for me. I'm here to interview for a job. You are here to offer me a job. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't work out, no grudges, no hard feelings. That's all right. So that's the way you need to go for an interview. Confident, be sure of what you want to say in the interview. If you're unsure of saying something in the interview, just don't say it. Don't bluff. Don't make up unnecessary material. Don't fill up your interview with filler words like, well, I don't know. No. Although it is a conversation, it's still a formal conversation. So try to be as clear, concise, and precise as you can. And again, remember your own worth. You are worthy of a job. You have to hold on to your self-esteem. You have to hold on to your confidence. You're not just applying for a job, you are offering them a solution. So act like you're marketing yourself instead of somebody who is desperate to get a job. Have confidence in what you say. It is not the end of the world. It is not the end of your career. You will get more opportunities. There are always more opportunities. All right. So this is just a quick slide to tell you what is the usual structure. I'd say a very usual structure for a junior doctor interview. We usually start with asking you to tell us about yourselves. Now, some people do ask you to take us through your CV, but that again doesn't mean you give us all the details on your CV. Make it a 3-minute or 4-minute answer at the most, where you'd start with telling us who you are, what was your most recent job, what's your clinical experience in a very short sentence, and what are your aspirations from this job. Okay, just those things, and not the whole shebang about what courses you've attended and what previous experiences you've had, and all the bits and pieces that we don't need to know. So keep it short, but again, keep it informative and give us as much information as we need to know about you. It's all about you, okay? Then in fields like surgical, medical, as well as intensive care, sometimes you are given a clinical case to solve. Now, I'm not going to go into the kind of clinical cases or how you explain the things. There are lots of different acronyms available for how you should structure it. My little tip for giving a solution to a clinical case is, we are not looking for numbers. We are not looking for evidence-based medicine. We are not looking for data. We're not looking for doses of the drugs, okay? What we are looking for is, if this patient was lying in front of you, what would you do? Okay, so just explain to us what you would do in a very simple format. Just tell us the things that I will do this, I will do that. Do not make it generalized. Okay, it's not a theoretical answer. It's not an exam. You need to tell us how you would deal with the situation. All right. The other thing that is usually asked, and many of us IMGs are not aware about it because these things don't get that much impetus in our training, is, tell me about a time that you committed an error and how you corrected it. There is a thing called incident reporting. If you search on Google or anywhere else, you would find out what it means. It is a very, very important part of the organizational structure of the NHS. And there is a very huge, I'd say a lot of people are giving in a lot of effort in speaking up, in anti-bullying laws and other things. And they own their mistakes. They learn from their mistakes. And the culture in NHS is that you report everything that has gone wrong or has created harm for the patient, and then you collectively learn from it and find out collective solutions without blaming anybody in particular. And it's one of the best things that I love about the NHS is the incident reporting system, is the duty of candor, and how effective it is and how seriously people take it. Okay. Obviously, you would have filled in your application with the desirable criteria if you've had something. So you might be asked about, well, explain an audit or explain a QIP. Again, no need to go into the big details of it. Just tell us in one line what the project was about, what motivated you to do the project, what was your background, and what was the data that you collected without actually giving us the numbers. And eventually, how did it make any difference to the clinical area or to patient care? So again, really simple, very simple language, not to go into any details or data. Then you'd be asked about why this job, or why have you applied for this job, or what do you expect from this job? And this is when you explain things like, what motivated you to come for this job? What is your background story? Also tell us about your aspirations, your core values. So all of those things which were non-clinical but important, and tell us that you've gone through the effort of preparing for the interview, come under this. So make it a very nice little story. Sometimes people, so there is a lot of there's a lot of talking going about burnout, resilience in healthcare, how people are leaving, retention of staff being a big problem, and lots of other things. Even physician well-being is coming up as a big thing. So we would like to know, if you were offered the job, if you come and work in our, say, in my intensive care, how would you then go back home and unwind? Or what would you do if you are going through a very stressful day? What do you do for your well-being? How do you care for yourself? Because we know that if you as a doctor can't care for yourself, it's very difficult for you to care for patients, and that to multiple patients at a time. So we absolutely need to know that you take care of your well-being, you are doing things, you've got a hobby where you go back to and unwind after a difficult day at work. You should be able to explain what you're good at and what you're not so good at. What are the things that you want to improve upon? So you don't tell us that, well, I'm bad in typing. No, typing is not my fault, but I would like to improve my, say, information governance or my typing speed, or I would like to know more about the IT stuff. I get fascinated by all these systems that are coming up, or I'm fascinated by AI. I want to do something about that. So make your weaknesses your learning points as well. Present it like something you want to do rather than something you're not good at. And of course, then we ask you about whether you have got any questions for us. And now, when you go for an interview, you are going to go with a couple of questions to ask the interviewers. So these are the things that, as an interviewer, what I'm looking for in you. I'm looking for confidence in what you say, clarity, not language, preparedness, that you've put in the effort. I'm looking for an honest answer. I'm looking for real stories, not made up theory. I'm looking for first-person answers. I'm looking for the real you. And this is going to be an adult conversation. It can have jokes, it can have smiles, it can have laughter. It's not an exam. I'm not assessing you, okay? I'm not judging you. So we can have a conversation. If you need a cup of water, if you get stuck anywhere and you want a little time to breathe through it, just tell us, just stop us, tell us you need time to breathe. Take a deep breath. Again, rewind what you were thinking about, put it back into your answers and start again. No one's ever going to judge you for that. What I don't care about is language. Whatever language you speak, basic English, if you're able to make me understand what you are saying is fine. Of course, you would have done your IELTS. So I am expecting we are able to communicate easily. But again, I'm not looking for fancy answers. I'm not looking for vocabulary. I'm not looking for eloquency in English. Just simple, plain answers, things that you would do, first person. I don't care about the grammar. I don't want you to be beating around the bush. If you can't answer a question, just say pass and go on to the next, okay? Do not get stuck. It's a conversation. It's not an exam. Do not give us long, complicated data stories. They bore us to our guts. Do not give us unnecessary details. Keep it as precise and short as possible. Do not fill your time with filler words. Do not give us answers which are made up. Again, do not bluff. Do not give us generic answers either. Give us answers about the real you. And memorized answers, I don't think anybody does that anymore, but if you do, then it's not going to cut it. So stop wasting your time. Again, my top tips for all of you who are now going to absolutely crack on your interviews: always dress smart, practice with a peer before you go. Peer could be anybody. It could be a colleague. It could be your other half. It could be somebody like me online. It could be absolutely anybody. Just practice how you would talk and how would you answer the questions. Always show up on time. Punctuality matters in an interview, more so in an NHS interview. If you are going to go for an online interview, make sure you get online, you've checked your IT stuff well in advance, and so that it does not interfere with your interview. Be confident. If you fumble, take a breath, a glass of water, start again. Answer like you're talking to me. No one's judging you. It's not the end of the world. Learn and grow with each rejection. Don't let it pull you back. Take it as a stepping stone. And it's just not me saying it because it's a quote. It's also something that we face in real life. The more you sulk, the more time you waste. Instead, use it to upskill and ask for feedback if you have not been offered the job after an interview. My golden quote for everybody: it's okay to fail, but it's not okay to not try again. So keep trying, and all the very best to all of you. I'm not going to go back, and let's do a little Q&A. Are there any questions that anybody has for me? So Mithila asks, for the shortlisting, do you prefer the supporting info to be structured as per the person specification, or would you rather it flow from clinical to non-clinical information? So the applications are structured. So you would follow the structure on the applications, unless you are writing an application on your own, which is very unlikely. So it will have a structure to follow. You do not need to really do anything about that. It will flow from clinical to non-clinical. It has a structure. The supporting information. So again, if your application is done well, and if you've answered all the initial questions, you wouldn't need to write a lot in the supporting information, if you mean the last bit of application that people are asking. What I would really look into for supporting is there anything that stands out? Is there a project that is very dear to you? Is there a real difference that you've made in any form? Because everything else you would have already mentioned, so it will just be a repetition. And mostly, if it's a generic question, then it'll just go on. If it's a generic question, or if it's a generic answer, then mostly people will just sear through it. So I don't think, if an application is done well from the beginning, most people do not even reach to the point of reading the supporting information, if that answers your question, Mithila. So somebody from an iPhone: I'm on graduate visa. Will this affect on getting rejections? Like if the visa is due in next 6 months, there will be an impact on getting selected. Yes, so visa sometimes can be a caveat to getting rejections. Obviously, people who are actually in the UK do get a little bit of preference. But then again, based on your application, if you meet all the essential criteria, and if you've got most of the desirable criteria, and sponsorship isn't a problem for the trust that you are interviewing for, then they can make sure that you get selected. So there have been, when I came to the UK, I was on a spouse visa, which obviously gave me a little bit of an edge over the other candidates who were applying from back home and who didn't have a visa at that time. Of course, NHS will try to save money on sponsorship, but if your application is quite robust, then they will provide you the sponsorship. It is different in different trusts, and it's a very individualized NHS trust thing. So we cannot generalize it, but it is a caveat. It might cause problems. It might lead to rejections. Yes. Right. So I don't see any other questions. Anybody who wants to ask anything else? For a consultant interview, I plan to do one. I just don't have the time to do it this month, but I'm certainly going to do one next month, if that's okay for you. So yeah, it'll probably be on my LinkedIn when I do that. No worries. My pleasure. Okay, so I think we have reached the end of the session. Thank you everybody for attending, and hope you are carrying back home some tips and tricks that you might be able to follow, and all the best for your upcoming interviews and things. If there is anything that I can help you with, then please drop me a direct message on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much always available to answer on LinkedIn, so hopefully that would be helpful. All right, thank you very much. I will stop recording and sharing now. Hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.